my god, I can't believe I finally found it!
Found what?
The answer to my question. It's empty.
Whoa, what's your question anyway?
I'll tell you. My question is, to what extent did the cannabis movement shape the social and economic development of the communities in Humboldt County? But it's empty. What do I do?
Maybe you should go interview some people. Everybody around here is pretty nice.
I mean, I guess so. Everybody around here should know why. I mean, they're the reason why Humboldt County is the way it is today, right?
Yep.
My name is Wendy Kornberg, and I am a second-generation Humboldt Countian. So my parents moved here when I was, well, I guess technically, really, I'm first generation, I guess. But we moved here in 1976.
Oh, wow.
1977.
Okay, and how old are you?
I'll be 50 this year.
That's awesome. How would you describe Humboldt County to someone who has never been?
So Humboldt County is a small rural county in Northern California on the coast. We've got redwood trees. We have the Lost Coast, which is a really beautiful area of the Pacific Northwest. And it's really just its own little microcosm of, you know, kind of crunchy people that are maybe our, you know, we have our own little brand of freak flag that we fly. And then really it's a lot of community-minded folks. We have a lot of activists. We have a lot of people that really care about land stewardship and care about the environment. And I think that that's one of the things that has kind of been a staple of this community.
My name is Sunshine Saraseta, and I live in Red Crest. I came to Humboldt County in 1982, and I was about, I think I was 7 years old.
Oh, wow.
And no, actually it was 1980. I came here in 1980. I was 7 years old, and I grew up west of Garberville.
Why did you stay here in Humboldt County after you moved here?
Well, I didn't leave here very often, and I guess to be even more specific, it's kind of like Southern Humboldt. And it's just a hard place to leave. I mean, it's besides just the beauty and the community, and it was such a unique time growing up here, and to be able to still be with people that like we've shared that experience together, it's meaningful.
Yeah.
Actually didn't stay in Humboldt County the whole time. I was here, my family lived here, so obviously I was here when I was a kid. I graduated high school. I wasn't entirely sure what I wanted to do or where I wanted to go. So I attended College of the Redwoods for a couple years. The first year, I think it was, I commuted, so I drove up. And then, or maybe the first semester, I don't know. And then I lived in Fortuna for a little while. And then I moved back here. Wow, it has really been a long time. I spent a semester in San Rafael and didn't really like that at all. So I guess that's a big part of it, is that I tried city life for a minute and I was like, meh, not really. I don't know. I struggled. It was weird. It was a lot of culture shock. So I did end up going to UC Santa Barbara for a couple of years for school. And then I went to a friend's wedding in Hawaii and ended up staying on the island of Maui for 4 years. And at that point, I'd had kind of enough experiences in different places that I knew I really just wanted to come back home. And this, having lived here for most of my life, always felt like home. So I came back.
Oh, did your parents have a farm, or what was their purpose growing cannabis? Just to make money? Or?
No, actually, my mom and the people, a lot of her friends, they began growing not so much for money for themselves, but to support activists and the environmental movement and saving old growth redwoods and supporting the livelihood of full-time activists who went out and saved the ancient redwoods.
Okay. What words come to mind when you think of the community here? Like the people.
So activism definitely comes to mind, and it's tight knit. Like, it's a community. For a little while, our community got kind of weird. So there's something called the Green Rush that happened when cannabis was worth a lot of money. We had legal medical marijuana laws, so people would come to make a whole bunch of money, but they didn't really contribute to the community. And so for a minute things got a bit fractured and strange, but then since that's kind of died out, it's really come back together. So it's a very supportive community. It's very open. It's very loving. It is very much like a big brother, and that like everybody in the community is our little sister, and we're going to defend each other, and and we're going to fight like siblings too. So we have our different ideas, and sometimes they really clash, even though we all have the same base values and goals and ideology.
So was cannabis talked about openly in your family and community, or was it more secretive?
Cannabis was not really talked about openly in my family. It wasn't a subject. It's kind of like, did you talk about tomatoes? I don't know. I mean, I guess, sure, I'm sure it came up, but not to my recollection as a thing. It wasn't until I was in high school, and at that point, like being older, it was something that apparently, like, my parents were growing cannabis for money at that point to some extent. My dad was a contractor as well, so he made most of his money building houses. But there was, some excess income that came in from weed sales and stuff. And I don't recall this, but my sister definitely remembers that there was a point in time where I guess she discovered that they were selling cannabis or something, and they made a promise that they wouldn't do that anymore, and they bought us these music boxes. I remember, I think right around the same time, one of my favorite trees got cut down, and I was really upset about that. So in my little kid mind, it was like, oh, the music box was, oh, we're really sorry we cut down your favorite tree. Apparently that's not the case. I don't know, that's how I remember it. So, like I said, it wasn't really a subject until that was one of the first things that I guess was associated with it, but I didn't remember it. And then in high school, it being a thing where, look, some of our money does come from this, but we don't talk about it because we don't talk about it. And really that came up because DARE decided to come into Humboldt County. This must have been 1989, 1990. I was in 7th or 8th grade. 7th grade, I think it was. And they had a police officer come in and do the drug and... What did it stand for? Drug and something education? Drug and rehabilitation education? That can't be it. I don't know what it stands for anymore. It's an old program that Nancy Reagan put in play and was going to teach kids to stay off drugs and just say no. And he came in for like 2 or 3 days to lecture us. Not all day. I'm sure it was just part of it, but it really stood out. The first day was on hard drugs, and then the second day was on marijuana and the dangers of marijuana, and how if we or our parents or our friends or our neighbors had anything to do with marijuana, there was a phone number we could call and anonymously turn them in. And I just remember at this point, the whole class all like looking at each other and being like, what? And that was something when I realized, because at that point, everybody kind of knew that like the hippies grew the weed. And there was a fracture between environmental hippies and redneck loggers. And that point, everybody was just like, wait a minute, what? And you could see the expressions. All the logger kids' faces were like, okay. All the hippie kids were like, whatever. And I went, oh, everybody's parents grows marijuana. Everybody's doing it. This isn't just one group. It's everybody. So that, to my recollection, was the first time it really became a thing. And then everybody started talking about it, because then we realized everybody was doing it. There was nothing to hide. Everybody was impacted in one way, shape, or form in their lives by the marijuana economy. Everybody was growing cannabis at the time, and most people were selling surplus of it. some people were growing a lot and selling a lot of it, but most people, it was like supplemental income. So it was a side hustle, as it were. So that allowed you to buy more things in town. It allowed you to support the fire department. It allowed you to donate to nonprofits. It allowed you to start a nonprofit. It allowed you to start a business that was outside of that. It basically was a bonus surplus of income that gave you a lot of freedom to do things with it. So with that, it really touched every part of our economy. It touched all the businesses. It touched all the nonprofits. It touched just about everything because it was this base supplementary income.
So how did neighbors rely on or support each other during the time cannabis was illegal?
Neighbors were a big deal. So we had something like, even as a community, like larger than just the neighborhood, right? We had CLIMP, which was a Civil Liberties Monitoring Project, and they had an office in town at one point with a phone, and there was somebody there that would man it. And anytime CAMP, which was the Campaign Against Marijuana Plants or Planters or Plantations, depending on who you ask, which was a government-funded operation, part of the Humboldt County Sheriff's Department, DEA, and the national government, federal government. So anytime that they were flying somewhere in a helicopter, people would call it in, hey, there's a helicopter in the Benbow area. Or there's a convoy, which would be a chain of trucks and sheriffs and stuff, and they're headed up China Creek Road. And so if anybody heard that on KMUD, they would start a phone tree within their neighborhood and warn all of their neighbors that, camp was headed this way and, to take precautions or whatever it might be. And so I guess that's not really how cannabis supported the neighborhood, but it kind of created a tight-knit neighborhood. Yeah, so neighbors basically relied on each other for information. They supported each other in, there's these stories about some of the watersheds. They would run down to the bottom and cut down a tree that would fall across the road, which would slow the convoy down, so everybody in the neighborhood could hide plants or hide valuables or do whatever they felt they needed to do if they felt that, camp was coming to their property. And then we also had, like I said, it was a tight-knit community. So if somebody had a catastrophic disaster in their house, if a fire in their lives, if a fire burned down their house, if they had a sick child, if they got in an accident, that surplus money came into play again because people were able to donate to them.
Hey Maddie, how'd the interviews go? Did you get the answer to your question? Yo, Maddie, did you get the answer to your question? How'd the interviews go? Hey, Maddie.
Oh, hi, Charlie. I actually did find the answer to my question after interviewing Sunshine Saraseta and Wendy Kornberg at KMUD. Okay, so you see, the cannabis movement shaped Humboldt County by becoming the main way people kept their economy going after logging declined, which helped families stay stable and supported local nonprofits and community projects because people had money. The war on drugs, camp raids, and DARE made people feel targeted, which actually brought the community closer together and strengthened their local support systems. Overall, the Green Rush and legalization boosted money in the area, but also brought outsiders with different values, and it also brought higher costs. So cannabis both saved the economy, but it also changed the community a lot. Does that make sense?